I mean, when I think about my own childhood, my own experience, I think the truth of the matter is we've been telling some dystopian stories. I can remember being really young, talking about the end of the world, about the mark of the beast. I mean, these were things that we were talking about in Sunday school. I was a little child. Throughout our whole culture, there seems to be this doom and gloom sense that things are going to change, things are going to come to an end, our government's going to collapse, our economy is going to collapse. I hear these predictions, these dire predictions all the time. It's almost as though there is already a story that we're telling about all of that.
And that's perfectly accurate. And that's what's interesting. What they're not telling about is the culture that is emerging. That's what I was talking about this afternoon in the workshop.
Okay.
That there is a whole new way of being that's emerging while those things dissolve. And that's a kind of culture that we really want to live in. It's a heart-centered, spirit-centered, ecologically balanced, socially connected kind of a culture. So in the world of the futurists, there's three kinds of directions people may be going. And one is the direction where technology just runs rampant and the world gets fabulous, kind of like back in the 1960s, the Jetson world, right?
Oh, yes. Okay.
The world of the Jetsons. The second kind of scenario, future forecast that emerges is that the resources run out, where there's some kind of catastrophe, whatever, and everything falls apart. Mm-hmm. And then there's a bunch in between, okay? And one of those that I work with is the one that says we wake up and we start using the technology toward coming back into harmony with the planet and with each other and with the multiple generations, with all the beings. Mm-hmm. And that as we use the technology, it's a stepping stone to a higher way of functioning. The internet is in a very early stage. It's kind of like middle school, maybe early middle school, 5th, 6th grade, in the sense that it's just beginning to discover what it is, what it's capable of. It's doing all kinds of weird things. People are doing all kinds of weird things with it. What it has been for the last 10, 15 years has been a means whereby people who had no idea what was going on in the world could find out.
Right.
Okay. So I'm doing a series of talks and lectures right now about there is a new culture that is emerging. That if you're watching the media, they're giving you a very skewed story that has nothing to do with what's really happening in the world.
Right.
And so I give a bunch of charts and things that say, no, violence is not going up, it's going down. Infant mortality is not going up, it's going down. Population is not going way out of control. We will still have 3/4 of the workforce available to support the 1/4 who are not in the workforce for as long as 50 years in the future. I mean, all of that's in the data. And I talk about that. But the internet has allowed us to discover that not only are there a few interested people in America around climate change, around alternative food production, around alternative housing, there are thousands of people and organizations all over the planet, and they're talking to each other and they're supporting each other, and there's at least a dozen websites, on and on and on. And the websites are what are actually making the difference for a lot of people.
Right.
You enter in a search in whatever search engine you're using with sustainability, you're going to get a bunch of things. Put sustainability organizations, you'll get other things, sustainable housing, you'll get hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of sites and organizations and so on. So that's what's emerging, and the internet is facilitating. Now, how do I reach baby boomers? Well, I was doing this class today. A third of the group was saying, yes, I get hung up in YouTube too. Yes, I get hung up in Facebook too. Yeah. So about a third of the people who were there were saying, yeah, that's my territory, and they were all baby boomers, right? Mm-hmm. One of the differences between our generation and older and our kids' generation and younger, they're used to quick, easy, instant access, whatever.
Microwave, yes.
So as we move forward, we're going to see more and more of that quick. Mm-hmm. And if you would like to have more of those younger, quick-oriented folks involved, what you need to do is also have little bites, sound bites, that's what they're used to, on Instagram, Twitter, whatever.
Because everything moves so much faster now, in our society. It seems to me we are more prone now than ever before to the kind of burnout that both you and I experience, that we get going and we've got so many things going on and we're trying to keep pace with this culture that we've created, and our bodies basically tell us that's just not going to happen. And so it's really good to be conscious of that, to be aware that really that pace is an artificial. It's artificial. We've created that for ourselves, and we can create something different.
Right. And the emerging culture has something different. Have you heard about the slow food movement?
No, do tell.
Oh, it's marvelous. It's mostly restaurants, but it's also people in dinner parties where they literally anticipate having dinner over 3 or 4 hours. All right?
My gosh.
Yes. And much of Europe and most of the Arabic countries eat that way. India also. Many, many, many people around the world have that kind of take the time for the meal. What I have seen is an incredible increase, like certainly an exponential curve, of articles on the role and the usefulness of meditation in just getting through life. Not as a spiritual practice, not even as a healing practice, just if you want to be successful, meditate. It's getting to be the message. As we allow ourselves to meditate, something happens. The body-mind system changes. And people step out of that false hypnosis, that sleep, that trance that has kept them running that way. And they begin to show up in a more whole and complete and authentic way in the world. I came to understand, and as a futurist this is an interesting thing to say, came to understand that life is meant to be heavenly. So the moment that it isn't heavenly, it's time to stop. What idea, what memory, what concept, what assumption, what belief am I having that I'm not experiencing heaven now? And then I can release that. While this culture we've been living in and its systems and its structures begins to dissolve, there's this whole other way of being that is emerging, that is what our heart has longed for, a kind of culture that we really want to live in. It's a heart-centered, spirit-centered, ecologically balanced, socially connected kind of a culture. And we will be experiencing it, and it will be the norm by 2040.
And so it is.
Amen.